Hey guys, I'm just going to do a quick recap on the water pump replacement I did on this 2012 Lincoln MKZ with the Ford 3.5 liter dual overhead cam engine. So I watched some videos on line and basically saw that a lot of guys were suggesting to pull the motor. Some guys did do it inside and took off a lot of things and it looked like it took some time. I don't have a lift in my garage, so I'm like, well, I don't want to pull the motor because that seems like a pretty hard task without a lift. So this is what I did. Basically, I removed all the intake hosing, so the air filter box, the battery and the battery tray, the upper intake manifold, the power steering reservoir. I'm not actually putting milk in there. I pumped the power steering fluid out of the reservoir and the line going to the pump and put it in that bucket. Now I'm just putting it back in because this is all back, pretty much all back together now. The power steering pump has to come off because it actually bolts partly to the timing cover. I pulled the overflow or pressurized bottle off here. The washer fluid neck I got out of there. So once you have the upper intake off, then you have a bunch of wires, all the coils, all the valve covers have to come off. So it's kind of an intimidating job at first when you're looking underneath here. Things I didn't remove that other guys on YouTube did remove. The AC pump, the alternator, the cooling fan, that all stayed put. And I was able to work around it and get the job done. So your motor mount on this side comes off. Motor mount on this side, actually the mount stayed in place, but I pulled the through bolt out so I could get a little bit more height lifting the engine. And then there's the, I believe what they call the roll restrictor going underneath the vehicle here quickly. I also pulled this thing off. So I'll just make a quick note on this for reassembly. It's kind of a pain in the butt. I pulled out this bolt and then the two bolts that go into the transmission. So the 18 millimeter head bolts up there. So when I was putting it back on, I actually kind of started to booger up the threads a little bit in the transmission because it doesn't really want to line up well. So then what I ended up doing is, initially this bolt was the other way. So I put the bracket on first. I can't see here. Put the bracket on first, and I got those bolts to start, and I had to fix the threads up a little bit. You really don't want to get those cross-threaded because you don't want to tap and drill stuff. It just makes your day longer and harder. You don't really want to run it in there because if you just force it in with an impact or with your gorilla strength, I mean, if you crack these bosses on the transmission, that's not really a place you want to go down either. So I put the bracket on first. Then I was able to line this up a lot easier with like a screwdriver in one side, shove the bolt through. I flipped it around just because the other way you can't, the bolt is too long. It hits the exhaust pipe. So you can't really get it in the other way like it was when I got it. I don't know if that's how the way it was from the factory, but that's how I put her back together. So anyway, I replaced the secondary chains that basically the intake cam sprockets drive the exhaust camshafts with. The gear at the crankshaft for the primary timing chain, both sprockets on the camshafts for the exhaust, the tensioners for those little chains, the big chain, and then there's 3 guides and the tensioner arm on the primary timing chain, along with the mechanical spring, whatever, hydraulic tensioner that bolts to the block. So I replaced all that stuff in the vehicle without removing the engine. I bought the camshaft holder tool, I'll go over here for a minute, from Amazon. This 303-1248 you will need to hold the camshafts in place. It also comes with this, it's not a Torx, it's like a Torx. Let's see if we can focus on it. It's some sort of like a 6-pointed splined, it won't focus, will it? Socket that comes with it, 1/2-inch drive. One problem I did have with this is it's a little bit long for getting the bolt out on the exhaust camshaft on the back head towards the firewall. So what I ended up doing was having to jack the motor up and down a few times, and I barely eked it in there to get it off. And then when I was putting the new bolt back in, I don't know, I didn't have the motor right in the same spot, and I ended up, I wasn't going crazy, but I used like a rubber mallet and just kind of tapped the socket and the ratchet in there into place. But yeah, so it's kind of tight. Like I said, it's somewhat of an intimidating job if you've never done it before. This was my first on a Ford 3.5, but can be done in the vehicle. Don't have to pull the motor. I didn't use a hoist. At one point I used a second floor jack, but pretty much you probably could do it all with one floor jack, 2 jack stands, maybe a third jack stand. Yeah, it can be done. So I just thought I'd throw that out there, trying to see if there's any other pointers. Oh yeah, if you get the Felt Pro valve cover gasket kit, this one here, that actually includes the 2 O-rings that go between the VCT housing and the head, and the 3 per camshaft that go between the VCT housing and the VCT assembly, aka the VCT, the intake sprocket, phaser sprocket dealio. So I had bought those from Ford for their nice Ford prices, and then put them together. And then when I got around later to putting the valve covers on, I realized, hey, those same seals are in here. So yeah, maybe you'll see those on eBay later. Otherwise, you don't have to waste your money on using the Ford ones. You can just get the ones in the Felpro kit. So if you are going to do this task, good luck, stick with it, and give yourself a few days. I probably got, I don't know, 20 hours or something into doing this. But like I said, first one, the next one will go a lot faster now that I know some of the caveats. So good luck.